Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to get started now. First, I'm going to tell you the book that I've been working on next is Detoxification. And I get a lot of people from the internet, the Yahoo groups, who talk about heavy detoxification and doing heavy detoxification. So my methods of detoxification are usually to take a food that you've eaten in the years of eating cooked foods, you ferment it and eat it. What you are doing is introducing bacteria that is absent in the food that you've eaten cooked. So you've got no way to recycle it out of the body. So your body has to make solvents like virus to dissolve that toxicity and remove it gradually, very gradually, and slowly. So in the detoxification book, I'm telling people how to gradually detoxify. And that's by taking those foods, how to ferment them and how to eat them and in what quantities. So this week, 2 weeks ago, I decided to push the envelope to see how much of a detoxification was too much. I did it. I took some, while I was in Vietnam 3 weeks ago, they have sugarcane juice. And you can get it anywhere, almost anywhere in Asia. And of course, I was a sugar junkie. I was diabetic, and I used to put down, a whole box of chocolate-covered cherries in one afternoon. And lots of candy and lots of powdered donuts. I loved all that stuff. I was a sugar freak. I became diabetic. So I decided I was going to detox the sugar that had been in my system. So I fermented the sugarcane juice. Well, I had diarrhea for about 5 days on and off while I was in Vietnam. During that, I got tremendous hives everywhere. And I used to get hives all the time, so badly that it burned my skin and the blister and scabs would fall off. And it was mainly around my kidneys, all the places where a diabetic is most effective. So it was all along here. I had huge marks still coming out my ass. I lost my complete ass, dropped in a week. I had this beautiful round ass, and it was gone in a week. How much sugar was stored in those tissues? It's not there. No ass. So what I decided to do, I was also a heavy milk drinker, pasteurized milk drinker. So 2 weeks ago, I decided to drink an intense amount of fermented milk that was 2 weeks fermented. So it smelled like alcohol. It burned my lungs if I inhaled it right over. So I drank, raw. So I drank 2.5 cups of it at one time. I was on the toilet for 3 days, 72 hours.
Is that raw milk or pasteurized?
Raw milk. And it caused, again, that kind of a detoxification. But that wasn't my ass. Lost my ass. I also lost about 20 pounds in about 4 days. So I put 10 pounds back on so I don't look so bad as I did 4 days ago. But it kicked my butt. So I kind of see the limitations. So all these people who on the internet say go for it, heavy detoxifications, I don't suggest to do it. Not unless you're 50 pounds overweight and can afford to lose that much weight. It was too much for me to lose. I was debilitated. I could barely move for about 4 or 5 days, just from the diarrhea and the exhaustion and the weight loss. And getting back up to this, I've been eating all day long, every day. Food and food and food and food, and cheesecakes galore. And cheesecakes help absorb that toxicity. I had less rashes, less hives when I would eat the cheesecake. So I'd make a cheesecake for about 3 days and eat pieces all along the day, throughout the day. So that's what I have to say about the detoxification. Before the book comes out, don't push anything too heavily. You're going to ferment something to detoxify that's what's in your body, but something that you've eaten a lot of in your past life, cooked life. No more than an ounce or 2 ounces at a time of that fermented food. Don't push it. Unless, you've got a lot of weight, then you probably afford to do it. But still, if you have to work, you're not going to be able to function very well if you have that kind of a detoxification. Okay, any questions about that? Jeff?
Yeah, could it just be even something that fermented has, that potent? Is it necessarily pulling out the old stuff, or could it just be...
Well, what I did was I had some of my feces checked while I was in Thailand and in Vietnam. I got a laboratory to check it, and there was a lot of old toxic cauterized sugar in there.
So it's
from that. Yeah. And here it was metals. When I had the milk, it caused a bunch of metals to come out of my system. And I started forming stones in my urine. So it caused a heavy mineral detoxification. You have to understand that pasteurized milk causes a lot of osteoporosis and a lot of hardening of the bone. A lot of people get broken bones from eating pasteurized dairy because of the minerals that are cauterized, so concentrated in minerals that it collects in the system. When I had the fermented milk, it started clearing out of my tissues a lot of those cauterized minerals.
What would you suggest you have if you have a big cough? What would you do for nice breads and things?
You just take those grains. If you were used to eating rye bread, you use rye. And you let them soak in a lot of water for about 3 days till they start fermenting. Get a little mold on them, and then you eat a little bit of it. But you don't do a lot unless you want to go through a heavy detoxification. So I don't know how much I'm scarred. I still have, the sores. You can see the spots.
Right.
The little sores from where the hive just came out and blistered my skin. See the dark spots? Now I've got them all over here, and some on my chest.
Like black spots, you said?
Yeah, little dark spots. See them?
Oh, yeah. You didn't have those before?
No. It was from when I started welting up, and the toxins started moving out through my skin. A little too much.
Sugar stays in your body for years.
Or, like I said, it takes 40 years to clean out every cell in your body. 5 times. It takes 5 times according to Pottinger's and Howell's work. It takes 5 generations to clean the body out.
I thought cells were supposed to replace themselves with dead cells.
They do. The blood takes 40 days. The skin takes 2.5 years. Intestines take 2.5 years. But you have to do it, and the bones take 7 to 7.5 years to replace every cell. You have to do that 5 times. Every cell in your body has to be replaced at least 5 times to get to the point where you're completely whole and natural and healthy.
You mean they're not replaced with really good cells yet?
You take somebody who's not well and they reproduce, their offspring will not be so healthy. They'll have toxins built into them.
So the cell takes 5 generations to really completely.
Right. So it takes 40 years for humans to go through that cycle. 40 years. In Howell and Pottinger's work, what they did was, as soon as the cat or rat reproduced and the next offspring was going, they would kill that animal and then, perform autopsies and do tests on it to see the changes. And it took 5 generations. Well, we don't have to wait 5 generations of our offspring. We have to wait 5 generations of cellular transition. It's about 40 years. And that's if you're 100%. If you're not 100%, it could take a lifetime, 50, 60, 80 years. All depends. And that all depends upon how healthy you want to be. I'm one of those who never wants to have another day of my own purposeful lack of energy and illness. I just don't want to have that. I want to see how healthy I can get. And I'm only 21 years into my 40 years. So I'm only halfway, and I'm already satisfied. Even after I got my butt kicked. I still made it through, and I'm here.
So after 7 years, you've replaced all your cells once. How are those cells? And they're not perfect yet, but are they still sort of half healthy, or or are there still toxins?
I would say they're a fifth healthy.
A fifth, it's 7 years.
Yeah, after 7 years.
So they've regenerated, but they haven't regenerated to be really healthy.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Because your body is always eating itself and always detoxifying. So all these poisons are transitioning through your lymph, your neurological system, and your neurological system, your lymph, and your blood. So these are all all of your cells are affected. Your new cells are affected by these poisons always being released. And if you go 5 hours without eating, your body starts eating itself. Start eating these old dead cells, and your body starts forming nutrients out of this dead garbage. So no one should go 5 hours without eating. Set an alarm for 5 hours. Get up, eat something, and go right back to sleep.
You mean in the middle of the night?
In the middle of the night. A lot of people will wake up, feel exhausted, and say, oh my God, why am I so tired? I had 8 hours sleep. 99% of the time it's because your body is eating itself. Become cannibalistic, and those cells are very toxic. And the people say when they start setting an alarm, get up, drink a little milkshake or a couple of raw eggs, and go back to sleep. They wake up 2 or 3 hours later, energized, and they don't have that depressed feeling anymore, where they felt like they slept well but don't feel well. So mainly it's because your body's eating itself. Okay? Any more questions? Pardon? Oh yeah, easily. Just remember that if your body's eating raw food, you never have to worry about lacking enzymes and vitamins for digestion. It's all present in the food. So your liver and your pancreas don't have to make these enzymes to leach cells from leach enzymes and vitamins and minerals and proteins and carbs from every cell in the body. It's all handled right there with the food. So you can eat as much as you want and go to sleep full as full can be. I mean, I've eaten, 2 plates of food and gone to sleep. Fine. And I've had a vagotomy, where I don't have hydrochloric acid in my stomach to help digestion. And I never have a problem.
How about some people say that when they go on fast, that's the time they detox?
Yeah, you're going to detox too. You're going to detox, but you're also eating your body, and your body's going to feed off of that toxicity. So you're not going to get much better. You're going to get thinner, and you're going to be lighter weight, but you're not going to be stronger and healthy.
Did you say you prefer to have like the green juice before you go to bed rather than food?
It all depends upon the individual. I give a guidelines in the book, 4 juices a day, 1 before you go to sleep at night. If you're a person who gets hyperactive from drinking the juice at night, you don't want to drink the juice. You want to eat some meat or eat some eggs or a milkshake and go to sleep.
What if in the middle of the night take a milkshake too?
If you wake, yeah. And if you don't wake, set an alarm after 5 hours so you do wake.
Or you can just have plain milk, right?
You can have plain milk, but it isn't as good because it's high in sugar.
Oh, so you don't want to take the
Milk by itself isn't good at that hour. It's high in sugar.
What about on the weight loss where you recommend a glass of milk at night?
Yeah, but that's night. That's not when you're waking up after 5 hours.
You said before have 4 ounces of milk before you go to sleep, and when you get up have another 4 ounces. Is that colostrum? Is that considered like milk?
Colostrum is a little different than milk. It's very different from milk.
So instead, colostrum you could have, but
colostrum, if you have colostrum available, and you wake up in the middle of the night, you could have a glass of colostrum. Higher in fat and hormone. Less in sugar.
So then you'll have 4 ounces of milkshake one time, and then 4 ounces, have the other 4 ounces?
You could do that, yeah.
But it makes it up to 4 ounces, doesn't it? Your milkshake. How many eggs do you have to put in?
It all depends on, I've got the recipe in the recipe book.
Just 1 egg.
Yeah, no, 2, you could have 1 to 3 eggs. 2 to 3 ounces of cream and 3 to 5 ounces of milk. Depends upon how big you are and how much you want to drink.
Can I ask if you're going to interrupt your sleep after 5 hours? How does that affect like the hormones that are made while you sleep, like melatonin and stuff?
It's all good. It's all much better. Everything is much healthier. That's why the brain is more focused if you wake up after 5 hours.
Or you'll be asleep a certain number of hours before the body makes its own melatonin or something.
If you're on a cooked food diet, yeah. If you're on a raw diet, it's completely different. It takes about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
So what do you suggest, 2 or 3 eggs? And a person,
It depends, Kathy. It depends on your weight gain, weight loss.
well, if
You
you're
know.
stabilizing, then it would be 2 eggs
Yeah. Or one.
or 1 egg.
Depends. All right. Okay, now we're going to go around asking questions. I'm going to start at this side over here. Suzanne. Okay.
I'll take my turn last.
All right.
Do you feel like you can make up sleep? For example, if you sleep through more program?
Yes, you can definitely make it up by sleeping more.
I didn't hear a question.
She asked if you haven't been getting enough sleep, can you make it up by sleeping more? Yes, you can. Just remember that 90% of cellular division happens in the sleep state. So healing, 90% of healing happens in the sleep state. After I got my butt kicked on this, I was sleeping 10, 12 hours a day. And me, I'm usually 4.5 hour a day person, 5 hours a day maximum sleeping.
Did you get up at the time and you had food?
Oh, yes. I never slept more than 3 hours at a time, 4 hours at a time. Always. Of course, I don't have to set an alarm. I've got my own internal alarm that does it. Okay, Jim, do you have a question?
Yeah, you see my recurring eye infections. It was brought to my attention that lemon or lime would be effective, except that they could also be painful. So I wouldn't want to do that. But what if I just put it like on a closed eyelid? Would that still permeate and get through?
Well, I don't suggest that you use lemon or lime to stop that detoxification, because your eyes look healthier than I've ever seen them. And I like that slow detoxification that you've been doing. You start putting lemon or lime in there, you start destroying the bacterial and the tear duct environment. It can damage an eye.
How about egg? You mentioned egg.
Egg white, great. Put that in your eye at any
Not the
time.
yolk?
Pardon?
Not the yolk?
No, the yolk will cause a cloud in a film. The egg white is almost identical to the tears. It's a little bit more concentrated in protein, so it feeds the eye and strengthens it.
So if you have red eyes or anything,
You just put egg white in them, and your redness will go away 99% of the time. Unless you have a condition like he has. It'll take about 3 or 4 more years for his eyes to settle. I know you don't want to hear that.
All right, that's good for
Before
now.
it's beyond. Okay, do you have a question?
How about a sty? It's the same thing where it doesn't go away after a day or 2 or 3 or 4.
Sty is like a wart or a mole. It is cartilage tissue that no longer behaves properly as cartilage, but it's not a dead cell. So the body will send it out into the skin. Hard to get rid of those because they can reproduce like any other cell. And when you've got a cartilage cell somewhere around your eye, it's not the best place to have it, but it's a living cell. You can try to destroy it by taking a pin and poking it in some unripe pineapple, and then just poke it around a little bit, not too much, because in my experiments, I've seen people burn an entire surrounding area 1/4 of an inch around the mole or wart that they were treating, just by sticking it into the mole itself. But those acids go beyond that particular tissue that you're trying to dissolve and remove. So you have to keep it pinpointed toward the center of it, and not too much of that juice.
You're using the pineapple juice.
Yeah, because it will just burn your flesh away and leave a huge scar that looks worse than the sty that you started with.
So it's the egg.
With
No, just with pineapple, you just touch it. You don't stick it all the way through the sty. Just touch it into the sty. You may feel it, but it shouldn't hurt. You shouldn't go that deeply. Like I say, you get that that acid that deeply, that bromelain that deeply into the tissue of the sty, and you're going to cause internal scarring. So you just want to keep it on the surface, or barely into that, before, so you don't feel the pain, a needle poke. You shouldn't feel it like you feel, acupuncture. It should be just like a touch, a little pressure, and that's it. Okay, do you have a question? Okay, question. Once a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Any family guidelines for the meat?
As much as they want.
Okay, as
Yeah.
much as an adult?
Oh yeah. I've seen children that size eat a pound and a half a day, throughout a day. Definitely.
What was her question?
Children, how much meat can a child eat? As much as they can eat.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Why is that? Why is that?
Because children have a lot of HGH, which is human growth hormone. When we reach 21, 25, we stop producing it. And if we don't eat raw meat, we're never going to manufacture it again. If we eat raw meat, then we will. And we will still continue to have growth hormones. But children, even if they don't eat meat, they have growth hormones, 99% of them. What that causes is an alkaline condition in their blood. So if they drink the vegetable juice, they become too over-alkaline. Then they become repulsed to meat and even to dairy. And then they won't eat those foods. And then they get cranky. They start going for sugars. And then it's unruly and unmanageable. And then it's when you don't want to have children. So you don't want them to have vegetable juice for maybe one day a week. And you can usually tell they get a little red around the mouth, and they're getting a little acidic, a little red around the eyes, a little red around the ears. They're getting over acid, but it only takes 1 cup and they're back. Even a half a cup, child that size. So you don't want much, and you don't need to use much parsley in children's juice. It should be only maybe 5% parsley, and 90% celery, and maybe 5% cucumber.
What is the parsley? What's parsley?
The parsley causes them to get really alkaline, overly alkaline in their intestines and blood. That's the most alkalinizing besides comfrey. So it has to be minimized.
They say you have a tendency to lose your appetite when you become
Over-alkaline. Yes, when your digestive tract and your blood become over-alkaline, you lose appetite for meat. And you just start craving sugars and sugars and
So
sugars.
if you have the juice and you don't have an appetite after the juice, it could be that you are maybe at the balance of the parts.
Too much for you, then you shouldn't be drinking that much juice, or you should skip that particular juice at that time of day.
Or change the ratio.
The ratio.
How about the adult? If they grow up and what if they drink a lot of green juice and what happens? Will they lose appetite?
If they drink, a dog, or did you
I
say
mean,
a child, a grown-up,
Yeah.
an adult?
Yeah.
It wasn't a dog, it was an adult.
That's what I thought you said.
Asian accent. If an adult drinks a lot of green juice and they lose their appetite for meat, they're drinking too much juice. Green vegetable juice. Okay. Do you have a question? Do you have a question?
I do.
Yes.
I get a couple of different symptoms after eating meat and drinking milk. When I drink milk or milkshake, I get really upset.
Uh-huh.
And after I eat meat, I feel extreme and thirsty. And I've tried to stop it. So it's like really thirsty.
Uh-huh. That's usually severe delipidization. It means in your digestive tract, in your sinuses. You may be dumping a lot of toxic cauterized minerals from your days of cooked food. Say they're stored in your esophagus and in your sinuses and in your stomach. Well, when you eat, no matter what you eat, the sinuses and the esophagus and the stomach will start dumping some of those into the food. Acid reflux is that problem to the extreme. So we'll dump into whatever food you have. That's why I say you always need to eat fat with whatever food you're going to eat, so that those poisons don't go into the meat and the other nutrients, because you won't be able to utilize them. Once those poisons get into there, they neutralize the acidity and the digestive juices and destroy bacteria. So the villi don't work properly anymore. So that food will not be digested. So if you're eating butter, cream, eggs, or some kind of fat with whatever food you're eating, that fat will absorb those poisons so that you can utilize your food. Otherwise you will not. You're not likely to digest and utilize very much of it. Okay? Do you have a question?
Not really. I just wanted
Okay. Come back.
Can you review using sauna and how it's up and others or other toxins you might have going away?
I like the idea of heat, but saunas I do not like. They're too hot. By the time they get through the third layer of skin, they've damaged the enzyme content in the skin and the vitamin content, and then start affecting the connective tissue. They also burn the mucous membrane. Steam is the same thing. It could even be worse because that gets into the lungs. Usually in a sauna you can cool the air by the time it gets past the bronchioles. But with steam it will actually get into the lungs and damage the lung walls. So hot baths, hot water bottles, that is what you should use to help yourself perspire to get rid of the poison.
What about if you use a sauna at a very low temperature, like 110 or 120? Is that something that
Well, it depends upon how long you stay in there. Again, it's dry. It's dry. It's going to create cracking on your skin. If you get into a bath where you have moisture in there and you have milk in the water, you have some vinegar, and you have some sea salt, it's going to help you attract with the magnetic force of all those substances to help pull the toxins out of your skin. So your skin isn't going to have to work as hard. If you're in a sauna or a steam room, your skin gets damaged every time you go into it.
What'd you say, milk? What?
Usually I suggest 2 to 3 cups of milk per bath, 2 tablespoons of sun-dried sea salt, and 2 to 4 tablespoons of raw and pasteurized apple cider vinegar. And those will help magnetize the poisons in your connective tissue and in your lymph out through your skin.
What is 2 or is it 4? You're going to say 2 to 4, so it's either...
It depends upon how toxic your water is.
What was the last one? So generally in LA it should be toxic, more toxic. You should use
If you're in the valley, it's less toxic than LA.
milk, salt, and
Milk, salt, and vinegar.
How much vinegar?
2 to 4 tablespoons.
What will keep you from reabsorbing toxins when you do a bath like that?
There's no way you can
tablespoons of what,
reabsorb
vinegar?
it. Unless you don't put those ingredients in the water. Then your body can reabsorb it, but not likely. Even if you don't have those things in it, you're not likely to reabsorb what you've exuded, but you're likely to absorb the chemicals that are in the water. If I get into LA city water without those ingredients in it, I can not stay in there longer than 7 minutes, and I get out of there like I've had 10 cups of coffee. And I mean, I am buzzing. My heart's going 90 miles an hour, and I'm just shaking.
Yeah.
So I can't do that. Here I've got my own well, so I don't have all that problem. Well water. It's great.
In relation to the sauna, I know some people that actually do it 6 times a week. Okay, they go and it's just, really, I mean, they're
Well, they're acclimated to it as children, so they build up a resistance to it. Getting into it, in your later years, it's not an easy thing to do. Do you have a question? You. Yeah, forget your name.
Eric.
Eric.
Actually, I have a real question and a quick novelty question that I think you might enjoy. The real one is, well, a few of us will talk about that. Anyway, the real one is, what's your take on the causes and the remedies for the atheromas that sometimes people develop under their eyes or in various places like that, the static deposits?
Mm-hmm. Just remember that poisons store in the fats. If your body is using your eyes as a detoxification center, the tear ducts, fatty deposits will normally form. If they don't, you're in trouble, because the eyes will be terribly affected if they are. And you can see people with very bulging eyes, and then all this sunken around them, they usually end up with a severe eye condition later in life that's high pressure, and like glaucoma, and cause a lot of problems. Headaches continually throughout their life, irritability. But anywhere where you have fat collections, that is the body throwing poisons into those areas. And if it's around the eyes, it's that. Like Lori, when I first met her, she had huge bags under her eyes. She also had cancer in 3 parts of her body and was ultra thin. You know, over the years it's diminished. She doesn't have that kind of bulging in it. And her father had it too, tremendous. Has it. No, usually the toxins that go secrete out the eyes and the ears and the sinuses are all from the brain. And the brain has the most toxic collection of minerals than any other part of the body. Your body needs metallic metals and other minerals to transfer light, which is neuronic transmission. So the brain collects a lot of heavy metals. And when they have to discharge, they discharge out the head, the throat, the gums, all that plaquing on your teeth. Those are cauterized minerals from cooked foods that are collected in the brain that are discharging. And there may be bacteria in it, and there may not, depending upon if any cells are alive in your brain to be able to discharge some bacteria. Is there a remedy? Lots of cheese with butter so you don't get constipation.
Could that cause a benign brain tumor also?
Yes, it could.
Said lots of cheese?
Lots of cheese with butter. Equal amounts of butter. Yes, it is. Cheesecake. Best remedy. Cheesecake. Do you have a question?
Yeah, well,
You going to take both of her question and yours?
There was
Okay.
something we saw yesterday, actually, on the Komodo dragon, how they lick, they don't bite anything, they lick something, and science claims that they have a poisonous bacteria that kills anything it comes in contact with.
Yeah.
Is it actually a bacteria? I mean, I know how they tend to use bacteria a little bit. Is it actually a poisonous bacteria?
It's not a poison. It's a poisonous solvent, like a virus. Just remember, viruses are not alive. This whole contagious shit about mosquitoes carrying virus and all kinds of things, that's like you taking soap with you and saying that it's contagious. Soap is not contagious. It does not self-replicate. I don't care how many homes have Tide in it, you cannot prove that it self-replicates to me. The body makes solvents to dissolve compounds in your body. If you are so toxic that your body can't use a bacteria or a parasite or other live organism to break that cell down, that decaying tissue, your body has to make a soap, a solvent. That's what viruses are. You look in any book, ask any good microbiologist, and they'll tell you viruses are protein bodies. They're not alive. They can't reproduce, but yet they self-replicate. Hello? They are soap. They are solvents. They even admit, when you look in any biology book, you cannot find a virus outside of a live cell environment. Why? Because the cells are producing the virus. They don't self-replicate. A cell has to manufacture the soap. We manufacture soaps all the time. We manufacture alcohol. We'll take a carbohydrate and ferment it in our intestines, take the alcohol and make a solvent out of it to help dissolve toxicity in the system. That's what a virus is. It's a refined, specific, highly densified protein body solvent that'll just dissolve matter. It's not the nicest way to get rid of toxins. The bacteria and parasites can consume decaying tissue and reduce it to a micro amount of what it was. It's like we could eat 13 pounds of food in a day and pass a half a pound turd the next day. Well, if a parasite gets a hold of some tissue, it can reduce it to 100 times of what it was, 100% of what it was, and reduce that toxicity into a very small amount so it isn't so difficult to get rid of. But when the body uses a solvent, what happens when we use a solvent? We dilute it in water, and then we contaminate everything else, and we have this whole bucket of contaminated water. It's the same thing happens in the human body. We have virus and bacteria and parasites to help us. Detoxification is mitigated. When our body uses solvents, it's distributed, a lot more toxic. That's why doctors are more afraid of viral meningitis than a bacterial meningitis, because the fluids become immense. We're breaking down all that toxic matter from the nervous system, and mostly it's heavy metals, free radicals that go and do tremendous damage to other areas of the body, which you don't normally destroy when parasites and bacteria are active. Yes?
You're talking parasite, are you talking like a one-cell parasite? Like
I'm talking about any parasite.
Some of them can kill you.
No, they can't.
That's not true.
No, they can't.
You could die from amoebic dysentery.
No, you can't. You die from the treatment of amoebic dysentery. You take antibiotics, it destroys your ability to digest, and you die. Now, there are some people who are in third world countries that live completely on cooked starches, and they don't get meat. So what happens, they have parasites that have to help them eat that sugar decay so it doesn't dissolve their whole body. Some people die of malnutrition. They're not dying of the parasite. They're dying of malnutrition and the breakdown that the advanced glycation end products and acrylamides cause in their bodies. But again, it's a food contamination. It's not the parasite or the bacteria causing the problem.
Well, that makes sense then, because if that dragon gets some crazy poisonous bacteria that kills anything, that bacteria replicate and destroy
That's right.
everything.
Flies do the same thing. Flies secrete a fluid that dissolves the matter. That's part of their digestive that happens in the mouth. Frogs do the same thing.
If you eat something from the fly, it lands on the food. You may just have an egg or something, but
Even if it puts that fluid down, it's not going to hurt you. You're not eating enough.
So that would sort of explain, they also said that the Komodo dragons are immune to their saliva, like if they were
Like
to get
the
it,
bacteria
if they
doesn't
were
hurt them.
to get
It's
it
not
on another one.
bacteria. Bacteria occurs in... We have 23,000 varieties of bacteria in our mouth. The human being is the most toxic, if you're looking at bacteria, the most toxic salivary juices in the world. 2,300 various bacteria in the human mouth. How many people have you killed that you bit? It's all bullshit. This whole bacteria thing is bullshit.
dog, you get a dog bite or something.
That's right. And the main enzyme we have is the Tylen enzyme, and that breaks down sugar.
It's the same thing. If a dog bites you, you're not gonna get rabies.
Not likely. Okay.
Well, where do the rabies and the malaria come from? The drugs, the treatments that is that
From the high toxicity in the person, and then when they take a drug or medication, it weakens their body. And they usually go into anaphylaxis, which is a shock, and they die. But of course, the medical profession isn't going to take blame for that,
Not gonna
because
take
then you'd sue them. And they'd be blamed for everything that they do cause.
They try to do
So
that
if
with
the person has rabies, if they just suffered the symptoms and never got an injection, they could survive.
Correct. But in the old days when they used to treat it, because, you have foaming of the mouth, because usually that particular bacteria is familiar to the nervous system. It's like syphilis. So it can dissolve brain tissue quickly. And if you've been a person who grew up, let's say, we had a lot of the people who got lung disease, black lung disease, are the people who live in London around the smelting factory. So they got the Black Plague because they were around this heavy lead and metal fog every day, breathing it. So the lungs were heavily damaged. So it wasn't the bacteria that was associated with the detoxification, it was the actual poison metals that were dissolving their lung tissue. So of course, technology even in those days, you got, silver, chalices and stuff like that are supposed to be gorgeous and beautiful, full of mercury. You got the smelting factories around, and everybody thinks it's advanced society, so they don't want to give it up. They're not going to admit what it does.
And the famous historical story is that when it was researched, they burned all cats, and the cats ate rats, and they blamed it on they blamed the Black Plague on the fleas from the rats.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with it. Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with it. Yeah, smelting factories. And also when they were burning the cats, they were putting a lot of toxins in the air.
How about
But they were burning everything. When Jerusalem had it right. In Jerusalem, during Christ's time, the garbage collectors were the pigs. They were sacred. You could not eat them, you could not kill them. They'd run around the streets and they ate all the garbage that was thrown out the windows. They got sick because they were all eating cooked food, the cooked garbage remains. And that was another reason it was wrong to eat them. You were not allowed to eat those pigs because they were toxic. And they were diseased animals. But then they went to burning everything. Yes. No, they had the
Smiths?
They were doing smith work. Yeah.
Smelting is burning metals?
Burning metals, yeah. They were doing heavily, swords, armor, heavily.
Were being burned.
Everybody, had a sword or a knife. That was a big thing in those days.
And they burned the swords?
They would smelt the metal.
Oh, it's made from
And then to harden it, you have to temper it. You have to keep burning it and pounding it to temper it. And those fumes were just going all over the place.
What about new carpets fumes and the stuff that comes off in new carpets?
New carpets, if you don't have cotton or wool carpets, you've got toxic plastic in your environment. It's like wearing plastic clothes. Anything that is in cotton, silk, or wool, you are going to breathe plastic particles, lint. You take you take a synthetic, whether it's, from pine needles or whatever, you take a synthetic material and you shake it in the light and you'll see all this plastic, dust all over the place. The lint is plastic. Do you think that your lungs can break that plastic down? No way. So your carpet, you see that the carpet in my house, that's synthetic is covered with either wool or cotton carpet everywhere.
You say so you can't vacuum it out. You can't vacuum continually.
You'd have to vacuum 24 hours a day, all day long.
Not a carpet if it's a rug, a synthetic rug.
One of the most popular things about the carpet is the glue that they use before the dance.
That is a plastic epoxy that gets into your lungs. It's part of the fiber. That's what I mean. It's full of epoxy. You cannot digest that. How about, would you knowingly breathe plastic? It's great. Great. Pardon?
The wool carpeting that's out there, it's biodegradable. It's made from natural organic wool.
Well, even if it's from wool, period, if it's from an animal, your body can break it down. It's used to disassembling animal cells, whether it's hair or what. Our bodies spent millions of years adapting to that. The plastic, no. Yeah, but it's a little bit more difficult because they use high heat to solidify it, and the fats in vegetable oils harden in the human system. It's harder to break down. It isn't as bad as plastic, but it's not as good. Okay?
You were talking about bacteria before. What about a bacteria like Heliobacter pylori, which they say causes ulcers and all this stuff?
Heliobacter pylori is part of the stomach lining. We've had it for billions of years. All animals. Again, the medical profession is trying to blame everything that's disease on bacteria. But we lived with these bacteria for millions of years without disease. Why is everybody getting ulcers now? Ulcers were unheard of before coffee came into existence. Now that coffee's around, ulcers are a normal thing.
That's right, exit here.
And again, if you have an ulcer, you're going to have pyloric bacteria there in the tissue. But that didn't cause the problem. Whatever poisoned the stomach lining created the ulcer. Do you have a question?
Well, follow-up, how do you get rid of the plastic or the fumes or whatever? You can't digest it.
What do you do with it?
That's what I mean. You have to. My detoxification book is going to, get into foods that are fermented that can start breaking these things down.
Some kind of solvent.
Yes.
Can actually break that down.
Right. Can break it down. Yes. That's what my book is going to go into, without hopefully not killing anybody.
What could you do with the raw sauerkraut?
We have to wait for that.
That would probably be spring.
What about the raw sauerkraut? What else?
Again, I'm not going to give any specifics on any of that until I finish all my work and research. Because if for some people it's sauerkraut, it's a particular person, a particular amount. So you don't want to dive into any of this unless you know what you're doing.
So I think one of them is my father has had a lot of problems with heart arteries.
You get one question first. And we get around to it, yeah.
How do you deal with it?
Does he have congestive heart failure, or does he have congestive arteries? Arteries? It depends on what he ate in his lifetime. He's either a heavy milk drinker, a heavy pasta eater, heavy bread eater. Depends upon the particular minerals that have clogged his system. When you take the alcohols from those particular foods and you feed it to him in small amounts with lots of butter.
We have this epidemic of heart disease and
It's mainly from vegetable oil. Yeah. Well, vegetable oil is pure. You take even a raw vegetable oil and mix it with dirt, in a year it will be rock. You take animal fat and mix it with dirt, it'll mold and become earth. And it does that in the human body. It hardens in the system. Amber is a rock from resin from a tree. Almost all your crystals are vegetable oils, vegetable fats. They don't break down in the system easily, and once they've been cooked and in the body, they never turn liquid until it reaches 102 degrees. So you have to have lots of hot baths that are from 102 to 105 degrees, and you have to stay in there for an hour to an hour and a half at a time
to get the stuff moving.
to get that stuff liquid again, so you can get it moving out of the lymph system. Because the lymph system is responsible for cleaning the body, and if you don't have the lymph system isn't moving, arteries, heart, congestion is just going to keep collecting and collecting.
Right. I mean, our blood is mostly lymph fluid anyway.
Correct.
Would lymph massage?
Blood pressure.
Correct.
Would lymph massage help?
No, lymph massage is the worst thing you can do. Lymph massage is a deep tissue massage and will go down and crack your veins and your circulatory systems, your nerves, and your lymph system.
That's roughing, right?
Roughing is the worst, is the deepest. But any kind of deep tissue massage that isn't gradual, if they're going to go deep, they have to start lightly and move in slowly, so they're not ripping and breaking things. I suggest that you do just the tickle therapy. If you take your hand and you go over your hair, you'll get a tingling. Do it to each other. Just go over your hair on your arms. That whole tingle goes through your entire body. What more stimulation could you want? And that when I have a massage, that's what I have them do. I have them do my entire body tickle therapy. It means they barely touch my skin. They just go over like that, the entire body. And it generates everything. It excites. On the therapist, too. The therapist, usually when they're finished with me, they're more red than I am. Because they're getting all this energy from it as well. Do you have a question?
Actually, this one just came up with my original one. Speaking of toxicity in the home, I have a mostly wood home, which I enjoy very much, but apparently some termites are enjoying it. Fumigating sounds bad. Probably is bad. Can I cohabitate with these guys without them destroying?
All you have to do is get some mint juice. You know, get some mint. Like I grow peppermint all around here. Juice that and just start spraying it around. And it'll soak into the wood and they cannot eat mint.
They'll go somewhere else? Or?
They'll go somewhere. Well, it'll kill them. Those are eating.
They're under the home. Because all I have remnants of is their waste. They little pinholes and they push the waste out through that. Inject down those holes?
Yeah, just get some mint juice and just start pouring it all around.
Does actually growing the plants at the base of the house help?
Yeah, it does help.
Oh.
It also keeps the ants away. Ants will not bury into the ground where mints are growing.
How long does it last when you spray it? So, like the mint tree?
If it soaks into the wood, it's forever. Especially if there's wormholes already in it. Well, boric acid powders, and if you breathe it, it can just cause deterioration of your respiratory system.
Before the house is open, they spray it on and poison all over the drywall. The sulfur basically present there from it's permanently protected.
Yeah, but also it gases, though. Say if it rains and moisture gets into the framework, it gases. You have to deal with those vapors.
There's always something.
There's always something.
You want them in the house or in a hole.
But these things were known naturally, ages ago. They have fields of mint, and they would just, grind it into a liquid and just start dumping, treating the wood that way before it even got into a house.
Oh, so they used to build houses with mint-treated wood?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Egyptians were heavy with that.
Wow.
When they didn't use rock. They preferred rock, but when they used wood, they were always mint-treated.
Using baking soda as a deodorant then wouldn't be good either.
No, it'd be terrible. Diluted lemon juice is the best thing for that. Diluted lemon juice for deodorant.
Yeah, deodorant.
No, I use BioClean from grapefruit seed oil. Okay, do you have a question? What is your name?
Violet.
Violet.
Hi, I'm pretty easy with all food situation and I have my cholesterol is very, very high and every time I'm eating the raw, everything raw, I'm afraid it's already high and it doesn't go down very sharply.
Good. You'll be healthier than most people.
I've been reading about that, but I'm still using it the other way.
Yeah, just get rid of it. It's propaganda. Like I say, get the book. It's called the Cholesterol Myth. You read that book, and you'll be cured of all the myths. Get that book and read it.
We didn't hear the question.
She said she has high cholesterol levels, and she worries about her high cholesterol levels because if she eats this diet, it creates a higher cholesterol level. If you have a 700 cholesterol level, I might be concerned. Okay. That's a good amount. I like 350 to 400.
Finding high cholesterol is healthy.
That's right. You have to understand, on this diet, even if you're not on this diet, it's still healthy to have a high cholesterol level. Because the fats bind with the poisons. If you are fat deficient in your blood and you have a low fat level, guess where the poisons are going to go? Into the cells, the red and white blood cells. You're going to transport less oxygen. You're going to have more problems. So a high cholesterol level is good. It's just that the food industry like to jump on this thing about, we can sell now our foods calling them low cholesterol, like cereals and other garbage.
What was the book reference?
The Cholesterol Myth. It's referenced in my recipe book. Okay? So don't worry about it. Be happy. Because remember, when you're on this diet, at least 50% of the cholesterols that are in your blood are going to be toxic ones that are on their way out. Question?
Yeah, can you talk a bit about detoxing through the skin? Can it cause symptoms like dry skin,
Always.
stinging skin, chapped lips?
Absolutely.
And you mentioned warts.
That's why I like the Primal Facial Body Care Cream. You put that, if you're going through any kind of a skin detox, any kind of a rash, dry skin period, poisons are leaving through your skin in an intense amount that's drying out the surrounding cells. There's not enough fat in those cells, so when the toxin moves past it, it draws the fat out of that cell will crack and damage and scar. So with the Primal Facial Body Care Cream on, it will be able to be absorbed into the surrounding cells so you don't have as much damage. I mean, if I hadn't put that on these areas, I would have huge sores and huge scars.
How long does that
They don't.
You make it up or you buy
Yeah, you make it up. It's on page 145 of the recipe book.
How long is it good for?
It's good for, I've had it up to 6 months in the refrigerator.
in 6 months?
I've had it up to 2 months out of the refrigerator in a climate like Thailand.
After 6 months, throw it away?
No,
It's fine
I
for
just
their
never,
body.
I've always used it within 6 months.
I made a lot of it. But,
Yeah. Still, it'll last.
Or you could eat it with what you
Great stuff. Great.
Especially when it's
So the best thing is to do something topically. And not
Absolutely.
necessarily
You've got to
ingest
protect your
something
skin.
additional. Okay.
And especially anybody who has lymphatic cancer or any kind of a skin disease like that, your body's putting some heavy toxins right out through the skin. You better coat that skin.
What about
Protect it as
coconut
much
oil?
as possible.
the sun, always have something.
Well, if your skin is dry, you don't want to sit in the sun without the Primal Facial Body Care Cream or coconut cream.
What about coconut oil?
If it's raw coconut oil that you make yourself, it's great. That's what the natives always used for thousands and thousands of years, just straight coconut juice.
So
They would grate the coconut meat, wring out the fat, apply it, and eat it.
the organic cold pressed coconut is not good.
There's no such thing as unheated coconut. They usually pasteurize or steam the coconut before they cold press it. So
That-
it's bullshit. It's not raw.
That Jacob Miller has cod liver, some oil, some kind of a cod liver oil.
There's no cod liver oil that isn't solvent processed.
You know what I'm talking about, is that he has a listing of items.
I don't care. That cod liver oil is just as toxic as any other. Cold press doesn't make any difference. It's solvent treated. They purify it with a solvent. Even Udo's choice.
Really?
Yes. You have a question?
I do. I have been enjoying a lot of strength and health from eating this way. And recently I met a dance teacher and I spent 4 days doing all these dances I've never done before, like the polka, the merengue, the salsa. And my knees just swell up, just like they call it housewife knees or whatever. And I was wondering, what was it other than I just like was dancing like crazy?
That's because you never got married. You never got married. So
I
you
got
never
married
became a
afterwards.
housewife to do it. No, what that usually is, toxins and toxic fats leaving your knees.
So I just overstimulated, like a detox from all the dancing, because I wasn't used to that kind of hopping.
Well, you also have to understand you were a big milk drinker. You didn't eat a lot of meat. For the first 3 years on the diet, you mainly ate milk and didn't eat much meat or much butter. Okay? You were a milk drinker. Milk is highly concentrated in minerals, low in fat, not high enough in fat for the toxic as we are. So you just kept collecting a lot of minerals with poisons. And when it comes out the joints, it will cause tremendous swelling.
And now in Santa Fe, all I can get is raw goat milk, and they feed it grain.
Grains,
Not
goats,
the best thing.
cows, deer, they all eat lots of grain. They eat grain all the time. Grain-fed animals are fine.
I thought the organic pastures only have the grass.
No, they feed them some grain. Yeah.
Okay, so
Whenever
it's
they
okay.
get milk, they get fed some grain.
So it's okay to have grain chicken. I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought maybe I was.
They're built to eat that. They're built to eat high carbs.
I just thought my
cellulose.
knees swelling might have been from all the sugar from the grain. I mean, it tastes really sweet.
Yeah, well, it's high in minerals. All milk is, whether it's from a cow or goat. But just from a goat, there's even less fat than with a cow.
You're saying the new mineral, the raw mineral, turns out to
Yeah, but there's not enough fat to disperse it and get it out properly.
Well, how come you went to New Mexico? Any reason?
It doesn't matter.
I mean, if they have certain special things there. Oh, but you live out here.
Up to like 85% of the grain that's fed to the animals is grain. It's not organic grain.
That's true.
Toxic grain.
We're talking about grain is fine, but you're talking about the pesticides and stuff like that. That's something different. But you have to understand that most of the grasses that are fed these animals too, because they're fed alfalfa during the winter. You know, bales of alfalfa, 90% of it's sprayed too. It's like the grain.
Even in New Zealand? In New Zealand?
No.
Did you say you prefer the New Zealand over the American horse?
No, not because of grain. No, because of the other garbage that they feed the animals.
Even at Whole Foods?
Yeah. Whole Foods is worse. Whole Foods feeds theirs 15% bakery waste, stale donuts, and they call it natural.
You're kidding.
Yeah, all natural.
New Zealand thing.
It's only New
Yeah, I do.
Zealand.
That's why I go for. Only reason I go for this is I'd rather go for the grain fed because I like the taste better and I like the fattier meats. But because I can get it without all the chemicals and poisons, I go for the New Zealand all grazed beef with lots of butter and other fats.
So you get grain at all?
Once in a while, I'll get Coleman's. That's not me. That's Sally Fallon and all these other people who are saying, you know, these animals go out there and eat grass, they don't eat grain. Let me tell you, out there in nature, things are turning into seed every day. It isn't like a field where they're cultivating rice or wheat and it all comes to blossom and seeds at the same time. In nature, it's seeding all the time. You look at the seeds that are in my yard right here. Seed all the time. These animals eat grain all the time, every day.
Whether it's corn or wheat.
Whether it's corn or no matter what it is, animals out in the wild are eating a lot of grain. Unless it's winter time, then they don't get a lot of grain.
Whole Foods has New Zealand beef.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Whole Foods has New Zealand.
Yes.
It's okay for
But there are other beef that's not.
Well, the New Zealand from there is okay.
Yes.
At one time I thought I'd say that poisons and hormones collect primarily in the organs of the animal.
Correct.
And
in the fat in the organ.
Okay, so just how bad is the muscle of these animals?
It's not bad.
Okay.
Because most of the poisons go into the fat in the gland.
Okay.
That's why I won't eat glands from an animal unless it's an organic animal.
Well, I think we travel a lot of places or someplace where you can just discover the dead here. I went and bought some cheese, like black and cheese.
I use it too. When I was in Paris, in France, for 3 years, 3 months out of a year, I ate the mad cow. I don't have a problem.
What about if people are feeding potatoes to cows? That's not good.
Let me tell you, buffalo will pull up a whole field of potatoes if he gets a hold of one. Put it into a field of potatoes, and a cow will dig it up. That's why you put rings on their nose. Pigs and cows keep them digging up the earth. Because they go after roots. You better believe they go after roots.
It's okay for them if they eat it.
It's fine as long as that isn't their entire diet.
That's their entire diet, I think, of the potatoes. That's the impression I got from the people who were selling the meat.
That buffalo would be a dead buffalo, I think.
Oh, really?
Is Rosie still the best chicken?
No, Rosie is a terrible chicken. Rocky Jr.
What's so?
Pardon?
What's the
Rosie feeds theirs 75 to 80% soy. Soy has to be cooked and processed. Raw soy will kill a human and will kill birds. So they have to treat the soy before they feed it. So it doesn't matter that the soybean was raised organically. Once it's treated with the solvent, it is a chemical. It is no longer organic. So it is a lie. It's misrepresented. It's misadvertising. Rosie Organic is not Rosie Organic.
What kind of chicken do you recommend?
Rocky Jr. They feed their 75 to 80% raw corn. And the rest of it's soy, but I can't get them to stop feeding it soy.
Soy is poison.
That's right.
So they feed it a certain amount of soy.
Soy, but it's a small amount compared to Rosie's or any other chicken. Shelton does the same thing.
What about James's chicken? Is that all right?
Yeah.
James gets Rocky.
Buy the other stuff.
Soy's an easy protein. Fatten them up, build their muscle.
But you're not gonna. It's not gonna harm you, is it, if you get that 20% in, is it?
Your body can handle it if it's eating enough fat.
How much butter is it?
Depends upon the individual. I eat a half a tub a day, which is a half a pound a day.
Where do you get the
Minimum. Plus my cream, plus my other things.
Where do you get the Coleman meat?
Coleman meat, you can get that from wild oats. And I will. I'll shop at Coleman. I'll get Coleman beef a couple of times a month. Because I like that fatty sweet taste. That's what my pie was made out of today.
Really?
Yeah.
And the other thing would be the
That's
beef.
white cheese. You made it with a white cheese.
Feedlots with lots of grain that most of the butchers do. They take it off. Like North Star Bison is the only place I know of that does not finish their beef at all. Their beef is taken off the range and slaughtered.
You mean the buffalo?
The buffalo, yeah. But most other places finish their beef. Finishing means that they then feed it lots of grains to fat out.
6 to 90 days of eating lots of grain. To me, that's okay. I'll take that fat. Take that fat any day, as long as it's on good grain, not toxic grain.
So kosher meat isn't clean either.
Kosher meat is terrible because they salt it. Your question?
I found in the last year I haven't been able to tolerate the nighttime juice. I become hyper. And then I lie in bed and I toss and turn.
You didn't hear what I said
Yes,
when
I
we
did.
first started this? Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? No juice at
No
night?
juice at night. I'm the same way. I can't drink juice
Yeah.
at night.
But it's only happened in the last year. You know, what happened to me?
That your body went through a huge change.
So you can only have it up to what time? What is the time? You can't have it at night?
I don't have it past 6 o'clock.
But green too?
My green, yes. Because I have the same problem. If I have green juice after 6 o'clock, I will be hyperactive.
What if you weren't able to drink the juice because you had to eat something else between that time? And you're saying you have an extra juice for the next day? How are you going to work it in before 6 o'clock?
You don't. You just change. The old pattern has to change.
Then you throw out the one juice you can't drink?
Yeah.
Drink it in the morning?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you
Or
have-
drink it the next day, and then you just let it linger a day. Part of the fermentation process, if you want to clean out old, my parents made me eat cooked vegetables. I would projectile vomit. So they would make me sit for an hour and a half, and I'd sit at the table by myself for an hour a day, eating the vegetables, just to get them down. Those fats, like I said, harden in the human system. To help break those down, you eat fermented vegetable juice. So I'll let my vegetable juice go sometimes 5, 6, 7 days into a vinegar.
In the fridge or out of the fridge?
In the fridge. And then it goes too fast if it's out of the fridge. Then I'll have that to help break it down. Then I'll have 1, maybe 2 a week. Never more than that, because it can cause a heavy detoxification. So that's how you can use one of those juices if they go over. Or just dump it. That's all.
And so it isn't a problem that I can't tolerate it.
No, your body now has to adjust to a different structure. And that's good. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Pardon?
My feet tend to be cold, like when I wear sandals. My friends all continue to wear sandals, but me, my feet get cold, unless it's really warm, like today.
It's usually a bone marrow problem. So the bone marrow in your feet are probably pretty acid and pretty toxic. So that would be a matter of applying hot water bottles at night, get the circulation to change, and that usually takes 10 to 15 years to change. It's a long, slow one. The feet are the hard. With me, with my blood and bone cancer, the feet were the last thing to change, and it just did it in the last 2 years.
Wonderful, wow.
This particular ankle right here, the rest of my body could be completely warm, but this would feel like it came right out of the freezer.
Ooh.
And I would have to wrap it, bundle it.
Now it's better?
Yeah, now this last 2 years was the first winter where I didn't have a problem. It's fine.
Unless it's really warm.
Yeah.
Maybe wear socks. You can't wear socks with it.
Yeah, you can wear socks anytime you want.
Sandals. Yeah. I tell you, I bought these sandals 3 months ago, and this is the first time I wore them.
It was warm enough.
Yeah, it was warm enough.
It takes a long time.
What about numbness in the feet? If you feel like move your toes and it feels kind of numb.
These dead cells. Not enough fat to collect the toxicity, so it's gone into the nerves. Yeah. No, cramping can be a mixture of a lot of different things. Cramping can be dehydration. It can be a collection of toxic minerals, acrid substances, too much carbohydrate, byproducts, acrylamides that collect in the muscles. Cramping can come from so many things.
Low potassium?
That would be part of dehydration. You have a question?
Yeah. Frequent urination during the sleep mode, not during the day, but not being able to get to the bladder normally, like you do during the day. You wake up an hour, you go to the bathroom, you fall back to sleep, and that urge comes again. Only during the sleep mode.
The nervous system detoxifies when there's no light and at nighttime. If you're in a climate, like you're in, let's say, Finland, in the summer, where it's light all day long, you will still detoxify normally when the sun is the lowest. And the nervous system detoxifies. Like I said, in the nervous system, in the brain, that has the most free radicals, heavy metals. What happens is the free radicals touch cells, it burns them. Gets into the blood, gets into the kidneys, gets into the bladder, causes irritation through the urethra and to the bladder walls. You have to relieve it, you have to get it out quickly. Only way you can help resolve that is to drink a lot of cream before you go to sleep. That will help ease it.
I've been drinking my juice before I go to sleep, so maybe I'll try to eliminate that.
Eliminate the juice and have, let's say, 2 to 3 ounces of cream with your juice.
I do that, well, not that much, but...
Okay, then you've got to cut it out because the minerals in the juice are helping you eliminate from the neurological system at night. If you're not sleeping well, it'd be better that you didn't detoxify that quickly.
So the cream
Slow it
would
down.
be good anyway?
Cream is always good to help. Bind with those acrid minerals that cause irritation to the tissue.
So maybe take a little cream each night.
Yep.
And not to get the
2 or 3 ounces.
After 6 o'clock.
Yep. Yeah. I'm just pointing now where if I drink a vegetable juice, I'm urinating 5 minutes later.
Wow.
With intensity. Especially now that I'm so thin. When I get the weight back on, it won't be as bad.
Well, it disturbs your sleep. You constantly feel like you have that urge to eliminate.
Because when you're as thin as I am, you can't even move. You want to relieve, when that kind of mineral toxicity comes in to the system. Roger, do you have a question?
Yeah, I heard a talk with this guy. He claims that the body is mostly food. But anyway, he claims that people with Alzheimer's disease drink very little water. And so in order to cure this problem, he put them on a 20-day fast, and they drink about 1 gallon a day of water.
Mm-hmm.
And he claims that this unclogs these tubes, and then they're normal. I know. And he says that in talking to these people before, some of them haven't had a glass of water for 15 years. And so he thinks of water. I know you don't like too much water.
Well, in a situation like that, it's a temporary good fix, because the water, like I said, is leaching.
Yeah.
So if they have a mineral buildup, if they have a plaquing in their system that's blocking the neurological system, the lymph, or the circulatory system, the bloodstream, drinking a lot of water like that can cause a lot of dissolution of that plaque, those minerals. But also what does it to the blood and the glandular system and everything else. So they might be able to get away with doing it once or twice in their life, but not as a regular
He's not
thing.
advocating doing it all the time.
Yeah.
This is a one-time fix.
Yeah, it's a one-time fix, but it won't relieve it forever.
No, well,
Yeah.
if they don't drink water, they may go back again.
Even if they drink water, it'll come back. But it is a temporary fix that can be utilized in a certain
But
situation.
the doctors in general don't have any solution to that.
They don't have any solution to anything.
To anything.
Okay, do you have a question, Kathy?
Yeah, this one is, when you have making high fish, what will the high fish do to you once you have enough of that? What will it help get rid of?
Okay. Anytime you have making high meat, the whole purpose...
high fish, particularly.
I know. I'm going to address the whole thing and then boil it down to the individuals. Okay. High meat, the whole purpose of high meat is for bacteria to break down the meat. Normally in our digestive tracts, we'll have a lot of bacteria that breaks down meat. Not only hydrochloric acid, but bacteria. Salmonella, E. coli. E. coli is the last final digestion of meat. And E. coli is the most important bacteria there is. It helps you synthesize the B vitamins and amino acids. It takes that protein and breaks it down into the finest form. It's a backup for your immune system. When you take meat and you fill it full of bacteria, whether you're coating it with E. coli, the E. coli breeds on it, what you're doing is introducing bacteria into your body that will help you digest meat. Period. That's what it's for. If you want to go into detoxification, you have to ferment that meat severely. You have to let it go into a liquid where all the protein is already pre-digested by the bacteria and is high in alcohol. That's the bacteria, bacterial detoxification. And that is an extremely hard point to get to. You have to let your meat sit for 6, 7, 8, 10 months before it will become complete liquid like that. Bacteria in high meat is to help you digest meat, period. That is what it's for. However, when I experimented with high fish at stages eating too much at one time, it can cause a heavy neurological detoxification. It is rare, but it could happen, and it happened to me. It caused a meningitis. It crippled me for about 5 days. But I'm not your average guy.
Was that
I'm a
bacterial or
sickie.
viral?
Pardon?
Was that bacterial or viral?
Bacteria.
But generally, it would get the nervous system. Doesn't it work for releasing poison toxics in the nervous system?
I'm going to repeat it. Bacteria in high meat is for digesting meat. It's not for detoxifying the system. The bacteria that's used for detoxification are the ones that they call bad, like parasites, amoebas, certain kinds of amoebas. Those are your detoxification bacteria. You will not find them in raw meat, not unless you spike it. And then they usually don't survive unless they're internal in a body with the heat. E. coli, salmonella, they are used to living outside of an environment and helping decay tissue as it rots in the fields if the crows and the worms and the other creatures don't get it first.
You can get it.
But the amoeba And certain kinds of parasites only exist in a live body. And they are detoxifiers. And they are good and healthy. Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment to a couple of months ago. The paper that I think it's Monsanto. One, and you might know this. They're trying to create a cow that does not have E. coli bacteria. And that guy was like, what?
Yeah. And
Is it a cow? What is it?
Yeah, are you talking about E. coli 157, which is the bad stuff?
Something, but I didn't read it. But
Go
they're trying
visit
to.
organic pastures. You see David has tested the milk, the cows, the drains, and everything else.
So then,
E. coli 157 is a fiction.
I don't know what it was in terms of.
It's a fiction.
but can I ask you?
So, but Monsanto's they're trying to destroy all the animals in the world so that any animal that you will get, they will have genetically engineered and, how do they call that, owned, patented. That way, if ever you have an animal that you raise, you have to pay them royalty. That is the whole idea. They're not with seeds already. That's right.
Terminator seed.
Yep.
Can I
They
just
never
say,
regenerate for the next year.
then why are you going into different meats to make hide? Chicken hide, beef hide, all these other things if it's not doing...
Because there's a different bacteria for each meat. There are thousands of bacteria.
Which will
You want
help
to try to get them
digest-
all going.
Which will help you, the high fish will help you digest fish, right?
Yes. Correct.
And chicken will help you digest chicken,
Correct.
etc.
Yes. There's a whole array of bacteria for each meat. And if you breed those and introduce them to your body, you're going to digest better. Do you have a question?
But you once said it'll
Fred.
break down the tissue and the new tissue will come when you're eating meat.
If you eat it in such a mass amount that it's greater than digestion. But that's going to be hard to do. Like I said, the only thing I could do that with was fish. One time.
You have to take a cup at a time.
That was me. I don't know about other people. That was me at that particular time. Fred, you have a question?
Is there a way to kind of more on a localized basis kind of monitor air quality? In other words, like I'm kind of looking for another place to live, but I want to pick some place where the air is better. Do you know what I mean?
You can't get it better than this area.
Yeah, okay, can I...
Venice is the next best area.
Yeah.
And the further you go into the city, the more toxic it gets.
What about like Altadena higher up? Are they better or not?
Terrible.
They're worse?
Terrible. Yep.
Why?
Because there's a whole toxic layer that sits up there, right up on the mountain, halfway up the mountain. And that layer is probably about 1,500 feet thick.
Wow. Because I always had the impression that...
If you ever go up in a small plane
Yeah.
and you look at the layers,
Yeah.
you'll see.
Okay.
You'll see.
And the best areas then, Ben had lived in the...
Anywhere along the beach.
Anywhere along the...
Anywhere along the beach.
Are there any like reports or anything where do they actually do to give you like a more specific report on the air quality?
They won't do that.
They won't?
No, because then everybody would be discouraged.
Yeah. Then how do you know? Just because you're just smelling?
Well, because I used to do some tests.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You
And
got
also, when I took flight lessons, I saw the layers.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it was...
You make great sunsets.
Oh, yes.
Make what?
Beautiful orange sunsets.
Oh, the pollution.
Okay. Do you have a question?
I do. Back to parasites, more specifically worms. I feel that I get little flutters.
All parasites are.
I get flutters.
Almost.
I feel
Amoebas.
them. And I haven't done any before. I feel flutters at night. I feel I have some in my intestines. And I had a worm experience where one came out this week. And I'm slightly worrying in case it goes into the liver or something.
They don't go. A tapeworm lives in the intestines on high carbs.
Oh.
So as long as you're discarding high carbohydrate waste into your intestines, those are going to be your friends there to eat. The tapeworm only lives in a third world environment where there's only grains eaten.
Somebody said that when they got the monkfish liver, just going back, that they found worm in it. So you could find worms in a monkfish or red snapper.
But those are not tapeworms. We're talking about a tapeworm.
Oh,
But my worm was like, it wasn't a tapeworm, it was like a round worm, this big.
Pinworm.
This big.
That lives on the intestinal walls.
And I thought I have more of those I could see in the form of them out.
It lives in the intestinal walls like it does in the tripe of a chicken. And what they are eating is toxic protein.
Why did my one come out?
Didn't like it
It probably got too toxic.
You killed it.
Yep.
Or maybe because of the raw dart, it didn't have anything to eat in it.
No.
It was too toxic.
It's, like I say, it lives on your intestinal walls. It doesn't have anything to do with what you're eating. Tapeworm lives on what you're eating. Pinworm lives on your intestinal walls because of the toxicity. You need to have them. If you don't have the pinworm, your intestines could go into cancer.
So there's no danger of them going to organs?
If you ate just cooked carbohydrates your entire life, possible. Infiltrate the tissue. Or if you got poisoned by something that would completely destroy the integrity of cellular divisions, it could. But that would take a mass poisoning like they do with fish. Let's say a fish gets into an area with high mercury contamination or high radioactivity contamination. Its walls, its cellular wall barriers are broken. So then parasites can just eat the entire fish.
One of the things you're used to eating swordfish is okay.
Yeah. Still my favorite.
So you're saying you actually prefer, in some cases, to have that type of lure?
Yeah, absolutely. I could never breed them, you know. I tried to spike myself with them, and I couldn't get them to live. After the chemotherapy, I was so poisoned that anything tried to live in my body, it would die. I'm living off of it. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the question I asked you. I have this acid reflux that causes this cough continually after I eat. When I lay down at night, my teeth, my gums are bleeding continually. My teeth are hurting.
You're way too thin.
More fun.
You're way too thin. You don't have any fat to bind with anything. So all these acids are getting into your blood, into your lymph, into your circulatory, your neurological systems. They are burning your system. You have to get fat in a condition like that.
I'm eating lots of I've been on it 16 months now.
Not enough. I mean, you should be 30 pounds heavier with that kind of condition.
I put on 16, 17 pounds. I took off 10 of that already. I mean, I didn't try. It just...
I'm telling you what I've seen work. You know, and when you have somebody that has an acid condition like that permeates their system, unless there is fat, excessive fat in the blood, lymph and neurological system, and tissues, you're not going to be safe. You're always going to have symptoms. And if you sleep, you better sleep at a slant.
I tried that, didn't do anything. What does that do?
Well, it keeps the lungs from collapsing. If you're lying straight and the acids seep into the lungs can collapse. It'd be hard to breathe properly. When you've got it at a slant, you don't have that. You don't have the gravitational weight as a hindrance to breathing. No, you're elevated like this. The feet are this way, the legs are this way, and the body's at an angle from the waist up.
I tried that, didn't do any good. I lifted the head of my bed with bricks under it. So is gum bleeding a sign?
But you had your feet down this way? If you lifted the whole bed, then the whole bed's at this angle.
No, I lifted just the head of the bed.
How can you lift just the head? If you're lifting the head of the bed, the whole bed's going to crank.
There were bricks underneath them.
Okay, here's the bed. If you put bricks under here, the whole bed's going to slant upward. What you have to do is you have to get the bed like a hospital bed. This level, where you're from the waist up at a high angle. And what you can do is, get one of those rectangular shaped pillows, put on your body, or use 3 pillows to layer it. So you're at that angle.
What about the gums? What can I do?
I say the gums, you've got all those metals leaving the nervous system going out the teeth. So keep honey and butter in your mouth.
to absorb those acids.
How much of each?
Or cream, to keep a little bit of cream in your mouth. Of honey butter mixture, it should be about 8 butter to 1 honey for the mouth.
If you're thirsty for that acid fruit, is it good to have it now?
What acid fruit are you talking about? The tomato?
Grapefruit.
The grapefruit? It's fine.
This late of day, you can have it.
What does that have to do with? Just go for it, Kathy.
It all depends upon the individual. I tell people to eat their fruit in the afternoon and not after 6, 7 o'clock, because it could disturb the whole system.
After 6.
Yeah, about after 6, yeah.
Is it not? What time is it?
It's time. You can still eat it.
Not eat after 5. Is that what he
You
said?
got an hour and a half.
I say not eat after 6.
Fruit. Do you have a question?
Yes. I noticed I go into sleep about mid-evening, and that's fine. I know I'm detoxing.
You mean healing?
Healing, yes. Healing. I tend, well, I'm, yes, and afterwards when I wake up, I notice a lot of redness, bloodshot.
Could you close that all the way, too? There you go. Bugs will get in there.
Yeah, I notice a lot of redness, bloodshot in my eyes. What is that?
That's usually the brain detoxifying heavy metals out your tear ducts.
Ah. Right, since I've had a history of metal in. All right.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes. I noticed that you usually wear light-colored clothes. Do you not wear bright-colored clothes? And do you get concerned about dyes in fabric?
No, I have very dark clothes, too. Yeah. This is what the girls picked out for me to wear today. That's what I wore.
So you don't, as long as things are cotton, silk, or wool. And where do you find really good quality? I mean, do you trust?
There are places that have organic cotton clothes and silk clothes. They're very expensive, but just go on the internet. Look at it.
Okay, Ross Restoration is really great silk for like 10 or 12
Where?
Ross?
Yeah, they're just closed out from the bigger, higher end stores.
Yeah, that's not organic. They're asking for organic cotton.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Organic cotton and silk. There are quite a few out there. I've run into quite a few, but that's one of the main ones. Do you have a question?
What do you think about hot tubs? We have trouble with bromine and chlorine.
Well, my hot tub back there, I just use sand in this filter. I don't use any chemical, just sand.
Sand in the filter?
Yep. I use a 300-pound sand filter. And the sand keeps it, I like, my algae. I breed the algae to make sure the algae is full in there. Because it's good for the skin. And it helps feed the skin. If the algae is eating the dead cells on the skin, then you don't need salmonella on the skin. And salmonella dries me out too much. But that's our normal cleanser. Salmonella eats the dead cells on your skin to break them off and get rid of them. So salmonella is very important to have on the skin. But if you live in an environment where you can have algae eat that dead cell, those dead cells instead of the salmonella, then your skin doesn't get as dry, or my skin doesn't get as dry.
You actually, is that heated? Can you heat that or no?
Yeah. Not right now. It's too hot. I use it there to get cool right now. But
so you actually use that now?
Yeah.
And how hot do you get it hot? I mean, do you
About 105 degrees.
You can use it for your
Unless James gets in it, and then it goes up to 106, 109. Nobody can sit in it but him.
Like hot water.
Just a little plug here, sure.
Yeah, there's some. Do you have a question?
I only know about this diet last night, so I'm not practicing it. So then I have been kind of like raw vegan, but eat fish occasionally for 10 months. Fish and sometimes beef. Since I do the raw vegan, a lot of my health problems go away, except for science. I don't know science, allergy or whatever. So if you have any suggestion, what should I do to take up this allergy thing?
Well, it all depends on what's causing it. I mean, if it's heavy metals coming out through your mucous membranes, you're not going to stop it. All you can do is just produce enough mucus to keep it from being a problem. And that means eating lots of eggs with dairy, to create enough mucus to protect your mucous membrane. But I can see by the whites of your eyes that you have a lot of toxicity in your bone marrow. That means you have a lot of heavy metals in your bone marrow. And that's going to create a problem. Any of these bones in here are going to detox out your sinuses. So you're going to have an allergy problem all your life until all that's relieved. So the only thing you can do is make sure that you produce enough mucus to protect those mucous membranes and to discharge the poison.
How do you get rid of heavy metals?
Cilantro?
Well, there are different things I recommend. Coconut cream, cilantro.
Yeah, recently kind of like these
Dark berries.
Dark berries.
Dark berries. Blueberries, mulberries, boysenberries, things like that. David, you have a question?
I just want to thank you so much, and I thank God that He allowed me to discover. It's so intelligent, and I'm right on the money. I can't believe this hill is not built of evil. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, David. Did you have a question?
Can I purchase a couple more?
Absolutely. Yeah, when you think
right now.
Okay. Anybody that I skipped, do they have a question now? Susan. Suzanne.
For those of us who are unable to live outside of the city and concerned with the air quality, as far as air purification systems and methods of compensating for that, anybody have good experience with certain methods or equipment?
Ionize the building.
Yeah, but just make sure they're not on while you're in the room.
So ionizers, while you're not in the room, not in the room, it out. But any other particular equipment?
Your Alpine equipment is pretty good.
How about a fan?
Just make sure it's 3 feet from you. Because the EMF field. None of it has an ultraviolet light in it. As long as you're not in the room.
What about the ultraviolet light?
Pardon?
What about the ultraviolet light?
Just make sure you're not in the room when they're on. Because they will change the atomic structure of the air. And it's not conducive to health. It burns nerve tissue. And it would be bad for the mucous membrane. James.
If a 3-year-old likes eating the outside of grapefruit, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
Outside?
Yeah, he's going after the oils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It won't harm him.
Oh, it could harm him, but it helpfully harm him.
Okay. He's desiring to eat it.
Yeah, but usually in the citrus oils, it's one of the most potent solvent oils. We use it to make turpentine. So it's a very good solvent. So while he's young, he's probably breaking some very toxic oils down from his body, especially if he's eating some cooked vegetables. It'll help break it down. So.
Turpentine is made from grapefruit peel?
Well, it's made from citrus peel.
Question over here.
Yeah.
What do you recommend for roaches?
Roaches?
Yeah.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah, right.
You know, I never known anybody on this raw diet had a roach problem.
I do. We have it in the
Tubtails into the termite.
What was the question? About roaches. What do you do about roaches?
Cucumbers work for roaches? See, I've never had a roach problem, so I don't know.
Well, I have a roach problem, and I've been using boric acid and sugar in little bottle caps.
Yeah.
It was better than everything else I could find, but if you have to the vinegar.
Well, so like I say, I've been on this diet. I never had it. Even when I lived in Beverly Hills, which has the worst roach problem in the world, they're called palmetto bugs in Beverly Hills. And let me tell you, I was in a building where the roaches, I mean, they were in Roses, which is a 90-year-old woman that had an apartment up above me, and her place was, I mean, one drawer I opened, there were 1,000 roaches in one drawer. 1,000. Under her sink, there were at least 3,000 roaches. I had none in my apartment. My apartment was right next to her. You know, they just...
What do you think explains it? Her diet is not cereal. They're outside of you. So, how...
No, they like cooked, decaying food. Cooked, decaying food is what they live on.
She had in her house.
Pardon?
She had all over her house.
Cats all over her house?
Which she had in her house.
Cooked, yes. Yep.
So they were
And
attracted
they love that. They love cereals. They love anything cooked.
I had heard that they're attracted, like if you have a leaf on a raw leaf on the floor, that they'll be attracted, they'll smell that and go after like a raw
That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
I
They love mold. They eat mold.
I moved into an apartment and I had roaches and I knew they didn't clean it properly. I pulled the stove out and it was filthy under there. And once I cleaned under that stove, I had no more roaches.
Oh.
But in Hawaii, the roaches are so big, we put saddles on them. There's a really good way, if you really have a lot of roaches, is you just get empty jars and you put a little bit of oil, any kind of oil, like food oil, on the inside of the jar only, at the top. And then you put a little bit of stale beer in the bottom. And they go in after the beer, but then they can't climb out because of the oil, and then they just fill up the jar. Yeah, exactly. And then you put it on the blender.
Fear factor. Okay. You have a question, David.
I know a lady who chose to have her baby in a hospital, and the doctor decided very quickly into the labor that she needed a C-section. She now has a baby. She wants to nurse the baby. She's not producing enough milk. They're having her formula. Any suggestions?
Lots of milk and eggs. Yeah, lots of milk and eggs. Raw milk, raw eggs. A little bit of honey. Pardon? A lot of cream. Oh yeah, those formulas are very toxic. Mostly made with soy protein. Oh, really? Pardon? Yeah. Well, yeah, it works if the mother is also getting enough other protein from eggs or meat. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
How many eggs?
I mean, it'll help them build colostrum, but it doesn't help them build a good fat.
How many eggs a day do you?
Anywhere from, she asked how many eggs a day I eat. I eat anywhere from 4 to 20.
Wow.
Okay, anybody else I skipped? Yes.
We were just talking about the baby formula thing, and I just said, that I wasn't breastfed, and my doctor...
So that's the problem.
I already said that.
I wasn't breastfed either. I'm a mess.
Okay, who here was breastfed?
Not very long.
Look at the limited amount of hands. Look at that.
I was breastfed.
And I was told that my doctor made my formula too rich, and I was a very fat baby.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Fat baby is a very protected baby. A skinny baby is one where the brain will be damaged by any toxin that enters the body.
Not enough fat.
Yep.
I was able to
Yep. I like fat babies. I like fat people.
I might have asked you this before, but when you Even if it's wrong.
Well, that's all because they don't know any better.
Okay.
But any honey that's heated, see, when the bee collects the nectar, it swallows it. It produces an insulin-like substance which converts 90% of the carb into enzymes for digesting fats and protein, mainly protein. So it's a protein for digesting protein. It's like a solvent that helps break down cellular structures of meat and eggs, anything that's high in protein. Once you heat it above 93 degrees, that is neutralized or destroyed. The hotter it gets, the more it's destroyed.
What degree?
Pardon? 93 degrees. See, the bees fan the hive and keep it at 92.8. If the top of the hive goes above 92.8 for very long, for an hour and a half, they will abandon it. And they go to a lower area. And they will never eat that honey unless they're starving through a winter.
I thought I was real skeptical when I heard that you guys know that I deal with Honey Pacifica and John.
Yeah.
I went to the high desert with them. I stuck my hand in the hive. It was 109 degrees out, and it was 75 in this.
Because the bees fan it.
And when he said many times he's watched the bees not be able to keep the hive at below 93 degrees, they're gone.
Below 93?
So this is not, this is exactly right.
Is it okay to mix?
So what happens is the baby has a concentrated sugar without the inulin that is normal. The bees, see, when the bees get back to the hive, they vomit. So honey is nectar, pre-digested, it's vomit. Bee vomit. That's what honey is. Once it's heated, that insulin substance is neutralized. So when it gets into the baby's system, it's too much sugar that gets into the blood and nervous system. And it can cause anaphylaxis, just like a drug. And let me tell you, most honeys are treated. They are filtered with a filter that has high chemical reactions in it. They're also subjected to cleansers. And then if a baby gets that, they're poisoned. They go into an anaphylaxis shock.
But the raw honey's okay.
Unheated honey never has caused a problem. And I have babies a month old.
Well, that's what I thought, but we had gotten some off of that on there.
Okay, the next thing to know is that there is no law, there is no legal description of what the word raw means. That goes with cheese, honey, oil, cold press. And so if you go to a honey or beekeeper, even at the farmer's market,
They'll tell you it's raw because they believe it's raw.
And yet when you go and check out their operation, it's heated to 120 degrees, easily poured into jars. But they themselves don't believe that is heating.
Yep.
They believe it's warming.
Well, we found a lot of these, they'll also freeze their honey too.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are
Cold, and it has cold press.
Pardon?
Cold press. Cold press is now
Cold spun.
Buy it in the cold, and you know it.
Yep, there you go. Unless it's top of the hive that they've abandoned.
Is it okay to mix a little raw honey in a meat dish?
Absolutely.
Yeah, honey.
Yeah.
To follow up on what she's saying, sometimes I'll eat some really tough meat, or I'll get a piece of tough fat that won't break down. I'll take a scoop of honey and put it on my mouth, and it almost liquefies.
Dissolves it.
It does. It dissolves it. I mean, this is tough fat that I'm ready to spit out because it's like rope.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. The honey just totally breaks down.
That's why I say, if you're going to eat honey, you need to eat a certain amount of protein in a day, like in the recipe book, because people were eating too much honey and not eating the meat, and they were getting protein deficient. So that's why I say you could have 6 tablespoons of honey a day if you're eating a pound of meat.
But you can't
If you're not eating a pound of meat, you have to reduce it proportionally the amount of honey that you consume.
You can't just have a tablespoon in the morning of honey.
It's not a good idea. It's always good to have it with food, not by itself.
As if you're having a pound.
How about if you're having the lemon?
Not be having 6 tablespoons, is you be in that range?
No, you don't have to have that much honey. It's up to you. It's up to your digestion. If you're digesting fine, you don't need a lot of honey. But if everything's very slow digesting, you should be having honey throughout the day.
You can't lick the spoon of honey.
Is that all that honey does? Is help digestion? Does it have any other benefits?
That's just about it. Digestion.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's why the bears love it. The bears can digest so much food so quickly, they can gain a tremendous amount of weight. And if they're not gaining the weight, you can better believe they're going to go into a hive. They will invade a hive. If a bear is having trouble gaining weight, he knows he's not going to make it through hibernation. So he will go in and suffer all the stings in the eyes he can take to eat that honey, so he can digest all the food he can.
Because he hibernates. I mean, that's why, like, another animal wouldn't necessarily do that.
Yeah,
It doesn't hibernate.
right.
But you can't just have a lick of the honey, the spoon with some lemon, you know, from you juicing out the lemon for the moisturizing formula. Lemon with a little honey on it.
It's not a good idea to have stuff like that. It's damaging the teeth and the system. You know, if you're going to dilute it in some water. You know, like, you know, the lemonade. You put the lemon, the honey, the water, and the cream together. Yeah.
Oh, the water, the mineral water, yeah.
Aajonus, with honey, if you are consuming a lot of raw honey, you should also consume a little bit more protein, right?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
What's honey made up of?
Honey is nectar. Nectar from a flower. Pussy juice.
What's the scientific compound of the majority of it?
Pardon?
What's the majority of scientific compound of honey besides
90% carbohydrate.
Carbohydrate.
Do you eat much honey?
I eat my 6 tablespoons a day if I eat a pound of meat. If I eat more than a pound of meat, I could eat up to, proportionally whatever. I could eat up to a cup a day if I had 3 pounds of meat a day.
By the way, Aajonus, I've ordered $2,000 worth of raw Tupelo.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
Coming from Florida.
It's hard to get unheated, though.
It's totally unheated.
Tupelo is so thick.
We understand.
Yeah? Okay.
80-year-old man that's been doing it for a long time, and it is truly wrong.
Is it better honey?
I hope.
Well, we'll see.
No.
Aajonus, you said to have it after a meal.
Tupelo is highest because there's a particular nutrient in Tupelo, flour, in the nectar, that even allows the bees to produce more insulin. So it is even easier for diabetics to eat. It's slower in metabolizing.
He tells me he hasn't taken it above 80. How about 90? 80?
Fine, that's wonderful.
So if you're eating,
wonderful.
So if you're eating meat, take a tablespoon of honey every time?
I do, definitely.
Okay.
A little bit after.
With your meat.
Right,
I always have honey with my meat, or right after, either.
What about coconut cream? You have that with your meat?
If I want to. I usually don't have coconut cream with meat. I usually save my coconut cream to have with fruit in the afternoon.
Even after high meat, you can have the honey with your meat 20 minutes later.
No. If I'm having honey, I wait. If I'm having high meat, I wait 15 minutes before I eat my regular meat meal. I have my high meat, wait 15 minutes, have my regular meat meal, and then we'll wait till I finish the meat meal before I have my honey.
Do you wait any amount of time, like 5-10 minutes after that, or it's okay to have it? You're done with the meat?
As soon as I finish with the meat, I can have the honey. I may wait, but I usually have it immediately.
I thought you had said wait a little bit.
That's if you're having the honey and butter mixture after an egg.
Because the moisturizing formula is not enough honey. That's all I had.
Yeah, that's already, the honey is in the butter.
So that's
doesn't
okay?
count. Yeah, that doesn't count.
It doesn't count your honey with your meat?
No, the butter.
No, because it's mixed in with the butter.
Oh.
The formula, it's already attached to that medium.
So you have to have an additional tablespoon.
Correct.
With each meat meal.
Correct.
Honey problem with high meat is really antibacterial.
Yes. That's why I say you don't have the honey with high meat. You don't have milk with high meat either. The lactic acid in the milk will destroy the bacteria.
Do you just drink it down with water then, the honey, rather than milk?
I don't drink it down with anything, but you can with water. If you're going to do anything, use water.
Plain water.
I just chew it and down it, yeah. And then I'll rinse my mouth out if I don't like the taste, but I like the taste, so.
Do you have a nose kit?
Not anymore. I like it, so it's not a problem.
Use a clothespin.
Never take butter with high meat.
And the key reason for having
Digest the meat. Okay, we did, everybody.
Yay!
All right, what time are we?
We're 7 after 5.
Okay, we went over 7 minutes.
Oh,
forgive me.
my God.
Forgive me.
All right. Yay!
He didn't get a question.